Okay, going to do a MPI on this 1970 GMC half-ton pickup here. First glance doesn't look too bad. Interior is decent and clean, and bed has no amount of wear and tear on it. Paint looks okay, and you might think, it's a pretty decent truck until you look a little closer and start seeing all of the sins of its past. And you take a look in here and it's nice and fresh and painted inside and got a decent coat of paint on it. You start looking a little closer and you start seeing all kinds of things that jump out at you and make you wonder what people were thinking when they did it. There's quite a bit. We'll just go through this. I got the air cleaner off right now. Alternator power wire. We have a green colored wire here for some reason. Typically green is going to be ground or a signal wire or something like that. More wires, yellow ones, electrical tape around the crimp connector that they probably didn't do all that well. We got this relay thing going on for possibly the fuel pump. All kinds of bare wires on that. Exposed, not crimped well. Starting to corrode. And this part's completely loose, and we got some speaker wire kind of tied into the whole thing here, doing who knows what. Connection just with electrical tape around it. There's a relay just dangling, floating about in the breeze, bouncing around. What else we got? Ground wire, that's not in bad shape. Cables are both the same color, so you got to make sure you pay close attention to positive and your negative and where it goes before you hook everything up. Let's see what else we got here. Electrical tape around all this stuff that makes you wonder. They spent the money on the chrome hinges and the chrome springs to hold the hood open, and then proceeded to not spend the money on a new heater core. So they just abandoned their heater core and their AC and blocked off the inlet and the outlet for it. So you no longer have defrost in this truck along with heat. You no longer are going to have defrost, which is a little bit of a safety concern. Got this random wire going through the firewall with no grommet. That's going to wear through. This doesn't have a grommet, but at least it has some protective plastic around it. Something weird going on here. All this is flopping about. I think this is for oil pressure gauge. This wire, who knows where this goes. This random blue wire just kind of routed in the quickest, easiest way possible for them. And it comes over here, and then all of a sudden has some kind of connector here covered in electrical tape. Changes colors and then goes through the firewall again without a grommet. That's going to rub through. Same thing with this wire. That comes down and goes right there. They painted their speedometer cable and this junction box. Rather than remove it, just go ahead and spray paint over everything. That's cool. What else we got? We got some questionable welds on our steering connection. That's never a good sign. Not sure what they were doing with that. And booster is nice and painted, but it has been leaking at some point because you have all of this rust and corrosion here where the brake fluid ate it. Master isn't leaking right now, but it obviously has at some point. Then we come over here. It can be a little sideways here. Got a massive power steering leak. Hoses are starting to go bad. Some more random wires. Whoa, that's scary. Look at that. That's a power wire, and it touches, ground itself out, cause a fire. I'll button that up. Now I got some more wires with no ends on them, no connections. Looks like that's going to headlights or turn signals. Not sure. Not sure what happened here. Looks like someone cut this out with a torch. Maybe put a different radiator in. Not sure. And we have our fan shroud, and we have a mechanical fan, but you'll notice whenever you turn it, it's hitting the shroud. So we need to secure that a little better. And we have a mechanical fan, and then they also installed an electric fan. And when they did so, get some light. When they did it, they ran the wires just all willy-nilly to get caught in either the fan, rub up against something, and again, short out, cause a fire. Always good. Just random wires everywhere on this truck. And for as simple as these are, it doesn't take that much more time to do it properly and not have the fire hazard. So just a few of the little things. Again, I spent the money on the nice bumper. They had this, looks like they had it re-chromed, and this, interesting enough, is actually stucco wire for your house, for doing little stucco patches, that kind of thing. And they had it chrome plated because it normally wouldn't be quite this shiny, and it rusts pretty easily. They did it, and then they forgot that they need access to the hood latch, so just take some snips and cut a hole in it, because you know that looks great. The bumper itself, or the grill itself, has been re-chromed, but they just, looks like they just dipped it because it's very lumpy all over the place. But they spent the money on it, so rather than spend the money on, you know, making sure the wiring was done properly, they decided to go for chrome hood hinges and springs and, you know, a nice shiny grill. So let's go with the shiny parts rather than the safety parts. It's always good. Let's jump up underneath now and see what's going on under there. All right, just going from back to front here. We cut the exhaust out of this because it was completely shot. But right away, wiring connectors that aren't terminated properly, loose wires that are flopping around, some random hangers on top of a hanger on top of a hanger. Pretty good pinion leak on this, so rather than replace the pinion seal, they decided to paint the diff cover. We have three different nuts stacked on our U-bolts here. Got a nut, then a washer, then another nut, and another nut. And this one has a nut, 3 washers, a nut, and a nut. That's interesting. Painted the drums though, they're nice and shiny red. Starting to bubble. It looks like they prepped it very well. Good amount of rust under here, but nothing crazy. That'd be the least of the concerns. This is okay. Again, all sorts of more random wires all in here. This will be for exhaust later. Painted their carrier support for some reason. And there's a random wire that goes to nothing. That's always fun. Not sure what that used to do, but doesn't do anything now. And pretty good transmission leak. Need to replace the seal here. Now here's where it gets really fun. We have our fuel pump, fuel line, another fuel line, brake line. None of it's secured very well. Then we have this random wire here, again not secured, running through a hole with no grommet, ready to wear through and short out. And our fuel hose is in between the body and the frame, so when that body mount wears out, that'll pinch that. Let's see. And then my favorite is over here, where we have a fuel filter and a second fuel filter, some random hoses all over the place, and this bare wire right here ready to contact our fuel filter, shorted out, make sparks, all kinds of fun stuff. Massive fire potential there. Some more random wires go from brown to green, all kinds of stuff going on. That part's my favorite. a normal amount of rust for one of these. Not that's at least a concern here. We come over here. There's a missing cover for the transmission. Got a new starter in this. Pan gasket leaks for the transmission pan. And let's see what else we got. This random hose, I haven't figured out what that one does yet, but it smells like fuel. So I got to figure that out and see what's going on. Our signal wire for our starter has a couple of areas where it looks like it's been spliced and hacked together. Decent oil leak on the back of this thing. Coming over here, I was missing one or two of these transmission bolts that are the ones that are hard to get to, that people usually forget to put back or just don't put back because they're too lazy. And over here we had, like I mentioned before, a pretty good power steering leak. And then finally we have a pretty good sized brake fluid leak coming from this caliper. You'll see all the fluid pooling up right here, getting all over the tire. That ain't gonna be good. And you see this is where that's leaking from. Looks like the connection into brake caliper. Let's see if I can get this camera in here. Right where that connection is, leaking right in there. So that's a definite safety concern. And then last we have these tires, which are absolutely shot. This is age and poor alignment, but these cracks are a major concern, and it's on all four tires. So get in here close. Not a whole lot of tread left, but the main concern is these massive cracks all over the entire tire. So this one's hard to even begin where to start repairing. But this is what you don't want to do. So when you're working on your stuff, don't do stuff like this. And when you're looking at a potential vehicle to buy, or a project vehicle, a lot of these trucks are becoming very popular for project vehicles, and you're looking at one and they want a pretty good price for it, take a look underneath, spend some time and calculate how much time it's going to take you to repair all this type of thing, and what they're asking, and be real with what it's going to take to do it. So just something to keep in mind.